Hi guys, this is Sam. Welcome back to another episode of buying unnecessary camera toy to temporarily boost up my non-existent self-esteem. Today we're talking about the Lomo LC-A. What a disaster! I had this camera for over 10 years now but never really used it. Why? I don't know. I guess this is what we call collecting. Unlike the Black Lantern figurines my roommate collects that's still sitting in a bunch of sealed box, this camera at least finally got put to use after 10 years of collecting dust. I bought this camera at an absurd high price of 2,000 yen. That's about $300. 10 years ago. What am I thinking? This is like buying the Contact T2 today. No offense to all the T2 owners, I secretly jealous of you. Give me your T2. Anyway, nowadays you can find this camera on eBay about $40 to $100 depending on the condition, and as I was doing research, I found out there are actually a whole bunch of different editions of this camera, and look at this one. This is obviously specifically made for the Moon Knight fans.
Why did you call me Mark?
Oh, hi, Mark.
Anybody who watched the Moon Knights? I only shot one roll on this thing so far. By the time I'm writing all of this dialogue, the film actually hasn't been processed yet, so I don't even know if we are able to record it, but now we're recording it. Can I take a picture of you?
I guess.
Thank you. I'm gonna show you how this camera works first, and then we'll see some disaster sample photos if you are still here in the end. Excuse me, can I take a picture of you? Do you mind? No? That's alright, thank you. First of all, you need to put in 3 S76 battery at the bottom. Next to the bottom, consider this as a on and off switch. When the lens and the viewfinder is closed, the shutter won't release. Next, you look at the front. On one side, you have the aperture from 2.8 all the way to 16, and you also have a auto mode at the very bottom, and on the other side you have a focus range from 0.8 meters to infinity. This is very new to me. I have to pretty much guess the focal distance, even though I'm pretty used to the meter system instead of like feet, but still it definitely takes some time to get used to, since you can't like twist the lens to focus. That's how we normally do it, just after I already shot the roll, I realized there is a tiny little needle in the viewfinder. You can see it indicates your focal distance. I mean, the whole viewfinder it's very tiny and very distorted. It's very difficult to see actually. Another thing I did not notice when I was shooting is there is 2 little bright lights inside of the viewfinder. When you see one light, that means you're good to go. When you see 2 lights, that probably means it's too dark for you to handheld this camera. The shutter speed on this camera goes from 1/500th of a second to 2 minutes. You can actually shoot long exposure with this. But who would do that? You have to literally hold down this button for 2 minutes if you want to do that. Another mistake I made when shooting with this camera is forgetting to set the film speed. There is a tiny little wheel next to the viewfinder. It's where you set your film speed. I was shooting on a Kodak 200, but half of the roll was shot on 50 speed. When I realized that I set the speed back to 100 since the film is expired, I thought I would overexpose it a little bit. And nope, we're definitely not done with expired film yet. That's probably also why this roll of film turns out a disaster. And on the top, you have your shutter, your basic hot shoe mount, and your film winder. You can also see how many frames you have left. in this little window right here. And when you're done, press this button in and wind your film back like most of other manual camera. Easy peasy. My favorite thing about this camera is how tiny it is. It's even smaller than my iPhone. I can literally put this in my pocket. And I guess this is what we call a point shoot. It's very low profile. It's a everyday life, having some fun with friend type of camera. And that's it. That's everything I like about this camera. Everything else I just hate about it. First of all, it feels like a toy. The body is made of plastic. I mean, it's a cheap camera overall, nothing wrong with that, but listen to this. Like, what? Did you hear that shutter? Every time I press down to the shutter, I have to second guess. Did the shutter just happen? The shutter also has this really plasticky resistant. It just doesn't feel good pressing down onto it. If you've ever tried this camera and if you've ever tried any other camera, you know what I'm talking about. Second of all, I understand this is a very basic point-and-shoot camera, but me being a total control freak, I feel like there's very a little thing I can control about this. Alright, please stay there, please stay there. Stay there, don't move. And also the viewfinder is very small, very blurry, and very not accurate. The Lomo LC-A produced a very signature lomography look. High contrast, high saturation, heavy vignetting. Me personally, I'm not a big fan of vignette. Very often, I would manually correct the vignette with lens correction in Lightroom. Even though the first half of the roll was shot to stop overexposed, the color and the contrast actually came out very decent, except the few that is under very low light situation. The second half was shot on auto mode, and I think the camera has a great difficulty figuring out the backlight situation and the high contrast light situation. When shooting in evenly lit environment, the results are much better. And here is a side-by-side comparison between the Canon A1 with a 50mm lens versus the LC-A 32mm lens, just for the fun of it. Same film stock, same scan size. You can see the Canon one has a lot more detail and it's much sharper. I mean, LC-A it's a toy camera overall. And this is a close-up test. And this is a shutter speed test. Obviously failed. Overall, I just think the image came out this camera is too rough for me. Even though this is my only point-and-shoot camera, I still don't think I'm gonna use it much. By the way, I am on the hunt of a real point-and-shoot camera. Not to say this is not real, but a better point-and-shoot camera. If you have a recommendation, please leave me a comment below. I would love to know which one is your favorite 35mm point-and-shoot film camera. And please don't say contact T2. Alright, this is Sam. I will see you next time. Bye! I am tired. I've been recording this for 2 hours now. I can't believe my camera shut off in the middle of it without me knowing. Now I have to re-record the whole second half.